Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Rabinowitz, along with my beat partner Joey Kaufman. Ohio State beat Indiana 23-3 today at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington to open the season. I think people expected more. 23 points against Indiana is not what Ohio State expected.
In fact, it's their fewest points against Indiana since 1993. So, the moral of the story is it was a low number of points against the Hoosiers, which they've beaten pretty much consecutively for 3 decades in a row.
Yeah. But the good news was Ohio State's defense held Indiana to just a field goal. So the game was, I don't want to say it was never in doubt because it was only 10-3 at halftime, and it wasn't 20-3 until late in the third quarter. So it was in doubt, but it didn't really feel that way because Indiana's offense just did so little against Ohio State's defense. But you just kept waiting for Ohio State's offense to explode, and it just really didn't. And a lot of that, I think, was the offensive line, which had its struggles. I thought Kyle McCord played reasonably well. There were not. He threw one interception on a fourth down play that he had to improvise because play blew up on him, and an incompletion at that point is really no better than an interception. And so he made some nice passes. Not a dazzling performance, but a solid one.
Ryan Day called it a mixed bag, which I think was something you think that's probably a fair term to put it. I think going into this game, we had questions about Ohio State's quarterbacks, and we had questions about their offensive line. And I don't think this game really addressed them in a super meaningful way where if you were anxious about them, I think you should still feel probably anxious about them. And because there were a lot of plays where Ohio State looked to hand the ball off Travion Henderson, and there was nowhere for him to run. And there were some plays where Kyle McCord was having to adjust and move out of the pocket to make a throw. There was the third and short where Devin Brown was going to run for a first down, and he didn't have anywhere to run. He was dropped for a loss. So there were certainly questions about the offensive line, and you didn't see a barrage of touchdown passes. In fact, you saw no touchdown passes.
Right. We saw one, but it was called back.
Right. Illegal touching or...
He went out of bounds.
Right.
Marvin Harrison stepped out of bounds. You're not allowed to do that unless you're forced out of bounds. At least that was the official's judgment that he went out of bounds on his own. It was a nice pass from Kyle McCord. Would have been a 24-yard touchdown pass. But he made some nice passes. A nice pass down the middle to Cade Stover for a 49-yard gain. That was the longest of the day. Another nice one to Julian Fleming. So he made some nice passes, and there were no ones that were like awful. But it wasn't dazzling. But I thought the bigger question, especially coming out of this game now, is the offensive line. Because, as Ryan Day said, you can't have all those third and shorts and not convert them.
That was, I think, backbreaking them a lot of times, where it was Ryan Day mentioned short yardage situations and third downs where they were just in a world of hurt. And a lot of the issue with the running game is that there were times where they just didn't pick up yards, where it's early in a drive, first or second down, and you're getting no yards or you're getting negative yards.
Right.
And that gets you off schedule. That makes it really tough for a young quarterback. So you can get a little more of a push or pick up some assignments better. That'll help out the running backs immensely. But I think that was probably my biggest concern about this team coming out of this one as well is offensive line play and just how are they going to hold up when they face a better front than what Indiana presents.
And Marvin Harrison clearly was a guy that Indiana was not going to allow to go wild on them. A lot of double coverage, or at least kind of a safety kind of helping out the corner. I didn't see him open at all today in terms of allowed to run free. I'm sure he wanted to do more, but actually the most important play of the game came when there was an incompletion to Harrison, and he was down on the sideline for a minute. It looked like he was in a lot of pain. And you had flashbacks to Jackson Smith and Jigba, right?
Last year's season opener against Notre Dame, or second quarter, I think it was, where he hurts his hamstring, and that becomes a nagging issue the whole season.
That's the first thing I thought, oh man, not again. But then he got up, was back in the game a couple plays later, and I think you asked Ryan Day about Harrison's
whether it
health.
affected him, and he said it wasn't a non-issue.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the defense because it deserves it. This was a defense that, as we all know, gave up big plays against Michigan and Georgia, and obviously Michigan and Georgia are much more high-powered offenses than Indiana, which started, both of their quarterbacks are redshirt freshmen. They didn't know what they had, and I'm not sure they still do. But 3 points is 3 points. and we just talked to some of the defensive players, and they're mad they gave up the 3 points. And so there is a determination on this defense to show that they are back to the silver bullet standard. And again, yes, take into account the competition. But, Indiana's got some weapons. That Jalen Lucas is a terrific player. Very fast, very kind of shifty. But I don't think they gave up the play longer than 24 yards, and that was the only one longer than 19 yards, I think is what it was. So, that was certainly progress.
Yeah, I think you just had some guys that thought stepped up pretty well. Josh Proctor got the start at free safety. That was an open competition that really had gone all the way up into the season opener. Proctor didn't learn. He actually won that starting job until walkthrough on Friday. He prevailed over Malik Hartford and Jahad Carter, the transfer from Syracuse. And Proctor got a start last year against Notre Dame. It didn't last very long. He missed a tackle on the opening series.
Lorenzo Styles,
got pulled out. And this one, he lasted all the way to the fourth quarter, was one of the leading tacklers.
Yeah.
So this was a much better start for Josh Proctor this year. And then at cornerback, the number 2 cornerback spot, Davis Nigbinosin started there, and I thought played pretty well.
Yeah.
Showed to be a good tackler. Almost actually got ejected for targeting on the first drive, and it was overturned. So he almost had a very short debut, but he stayed in after that. It was overturned. And Denzel Burke had a good game, at least one pass breakup that I can remember off the top of my head. So overall, the secondary, you remember them last year against Michigan, Georgia, for giving all those explosive plays. It was Indiana, so you take it for what it's worth, but you still didn't see those happen.
Yeah, Josh Proctor had a nice pass breakup on a 4th down play that set up Ohio State's last drive of the first half, which resulted in a field goal. And they feel a lot better. You feel a lot better going into the locker room 10-3 as opposed to 7-3. So, yeah, I think Ryan Day, the term he kept using was the right term, mixed bag. I mean, you take this for what it was. There's no preseason in college football. You're finally playing somebody who's going to throw stuff at you haven't seen, and Indiana did that. And you win, But there is a lot to work on. I think Justin Fry, the offensive line coach, has a lot of work ahead of him this week. It won't show next week. Next week they play Youngstown State. And then the week after that's Western Kentucky. But the big one is Notre Dame, of course. And if they play the way they did today against Notre Dame, it could be a long night.
Yeah, I think Justin Fry is gonna earn his salary by getting this offensive line up to progress, up to snuff, because they are a work in progress, and certainly I think a lot of parts of the offense are, but they get a little bit of a acclimatization period with the next 2 weeks before that trip South Bend.
The last thing we probably should mention that we touched on it, but Kyle McCord got the vast majority of the snaps. The only series that Devin Brown played was a 3-and-out. In the second quarter, he played the last possession when it was over. They did not say the competition is over, but look, actions speak louder than words, right? Some of it was the way the game played out, but clearly he has more confidence in McCord because he played him 90% of the game.
Yeah, this didn't have the look of a quarterback competition that was unsettled. It looked like a quarterback competition where Kyle McCord is somewhat entrenched as the starter, with Devin Brown obviously getting some shots here and there. The explanation that we got from Ryan Day afterwards was in a close game, he didn't want a constant rotation of quarterbacks. So I think that prevented them from maybe rotating as much as they would have liked. He said that he thought Devin Brown might get the 3rd series, the 5th and 6th series, which leads me to think he expected maybe to score touchdowns in the first 2 drives, put Devin Brown in when you're up 14-0, bring Kyle McCord back maybe for some other scores, then have Devin run into halftime. It obviously didn't play out that way, but that's maybe what you'll see next week. I thought maybe that was a little bit tipping of the hand what you might see next week against Youngstown.
Yeah, I fully expect to see more of Devin Brown next week against Youngstown State. If not, then we have our answer, right?
We have your answer, or they're in a world of trouble against Youngstown State.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's true. I guess I didn't even think about that possibility. Well, anyway, that about wraps it up. That about wraps it up. From here, lovely Bloomington, which is lovely. It is lovely.
Lovely, balmy, warm.
It was warm.
Humid.
Yes. So anyway, thank you for watching, and follow all of our coverage at dispatch.com. Thank you.